I will have to move around, so please bear with me if I come, I interrupt your vision because I have several slides, and please somebody remind me after an hour and a half because I've been told to speak for 2.5 hours. So until that time, I hope you are awake. No, don't.
It's not 2.5 hours. That long.
कळलं? हां आता ते वायरने जॅकच्या वायरने.
So at the outset, let me wish everybody Shubha Mahashivratri. Today is a great day to be sitting here. Also followed is another event which is internationally, which is International Women's Day. And it's great to see females in such large numbers here. So having paid these homages to these two great events today, let me start. So first, a disclaimer, whatever I say is purely these are my thoughts. They are not associated with any of the organizations that I am associated with, which there are several of these. So today I was told that, the title of the talk is Engineering the Sustainable Future. So there are three words: engineering, sustainability, and future. Engineering doesn't necessarily means working with tools. It also means doing. Engineering means creating. It's a different matter that today's engineers mostly like to do MBA and go for pushy air-conditioned jobs. Hardly a lot of people do things with their own hands in their own workshops. But that's okay. So how do you engineer, that is create a sustainable future? Sustainable means something that can stay long. Sustainability in English means several things. So sustainable relationships. So if you are staying away from your parents or spouse, can the relationship sustain? If there is a business here, can it sustain? So if you have, say for example, a vada pav stall in a valley, will it sustain as a business? Sustain means whether it will stay long or not. But however, in today's talk, we will also give an emphasis on sustainability as an environmental sustainability. So therefore, these topics you must have heard or you should be hearing is about what is climate change. A lot of these discussions are happening around climate change. So what is climate change? The earth or the globe is all the time experiencing a lot of natural phenomena. It gets hit by sun's rays, it has tidal waves, it has tsunamis. A lot of these events happen naturally. So these natural events fluctuate the earth's temperature. This has been happening for million years. However, recently a new phenomenon has happened, is the contribution of man-made activities. And that is also contributing to the increase in the earth's temperature. And that is where the entire concern comes about, and that's where engineering a sustainable future comes from. Particularly for this young lot who are going to step into the future and probably create a lot of entrepreneurial skills and probably generate a lot of revenue and employment. So while doing that, we need to be aware of what we do, how we do things, and we'll discuss this in the slides to come. So these are the Nobel Prize winners who found out and established the fact that not only are the Earth's natural phenomena contribute to the increase in temperature, but also human activities. And this is the word is anthropogenic contributions. Anthropos means human, anthropology is study of human sciences. The other scientists also established that a lot of these greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and methane, they get trapped, and that is what causes the actual increase in the temperatures. So for these two reasons, 2 out of the 3 Nobel Prize winners in 2021 won the Nobel Prize. Such is the importance of this subject. How much is the temperature increasing and what should be the baseline? So the baseline is when industrial activity started happening. Around 1850 is considered the world as a standard where industrial activity started happening in a very organized way. Before that, activity used to happen, but not in an organized way as we know it today. And that is considered as a baseline, and from that time onwards, people, climatologists, this is a branch of science, not many of us are familiar with it, but they keep measuring the temperatures and a lot of other climatic phenomena. Now, how can you establish an average temperature? Because as we speak here in Mumbai, Navi Mumbai, the temperatures are around 32 degrees Celsius. In the same today, in Delhi you go there, right now the temperature is 12 degrees Celsius. So can you say that India's average temperature is 18 or 19? So you cannot average these things yet. And this is happening only in one country, India. Imagine at this moment the temperature variations between, say, African country and Japan, for example. Still there are mathematical models in which you establish the average temperatures and can do predictions and do remedial measures. So that temperature increase is supposed to happen, already it has happened by 1.1 degrees Celsius. Now you might say 1.1 degrees Celsius, what's the big deal? This is degrees Celsius. So in Fahrenheit it could be probably 2 degrees Fahrenheit. Is it important? What's the big deal? Now for that you need to look at your own body. Your average temperature is 98.4 degrees Fahrenheit. What happens at 99 degrees? You start feeling feverish. At 99.5, you ask your mother to make a soup for you or something. At 100 degrees Fahrenheit, you are already with 2 blankets. Right? At 101 degrees Fahrenheit, you start telling the world, my son and daughter has ek tapala. So these temperature fluctuations are only 2.5 degrees Fahrenheit. Yet you get worried, you get sick. Same thing happens to Mother Earth. So that 1.5 degrees Celsius might appear a small figure, but for Earth and all its living beings there, it cannot sustain. And what happens as a result? Here are the various scenarios. If the temperature increases by 1 degree, there will be global warming and it will have certain effects. What happens if it increases further 1.5 degrees? What will happen further? And the effects only keep on increasing. So the wildlife get affected. A lot of these species get affected. The marine species, the avian species, everybody gets affected, including human species. And this is primarily caused, or it has been considered, that the industrial activity which releases a lot of these greenhouse gases. You would have heard this word, greenhouse gases, GHGs. What are these greenhouse gases? These are carbon dioxide, methane. And where do they come from? They come from people like you who are doing engineering, power and manufacturing industry, methane from agriculture, chemical and meat industry, nitrous oxides from transportation, automotives. Each of these things contribute or give out emissions, and these are the ones that cause these climate changes. Why should you know about these things? Because as young engineers or young people who are interested in the future, not only about the future but creating your own future, you should be worried about these things and ensure that whatever activities that you do not contribute to these things. And this is an emissions of the entire world. And you will see India, in that far corner there, has a significant chunk of emissions that we are going. Per capita, that means per person, the emissions that are happening are not very great. But because we are such a large population, the country's emissions are very, very high. And these emissions are contributed from which fields is given in this left pie chart. The biggest one is electricity and heat producing things. Electricity, power is needed for everything. From running your agricultural farms to small workshops, to running hotels, to running cars, everything you need power. That power generation gives out greenhouse gases the maximum. The next one is agriculture. We are listening about, hearing about the farmer protest and everything. All that is fine. But do we know that farming, cattle raising and meat industry contributes 24% of the world's entire carbon emissions? In fact, there are research reports in as reputed journals as in Nature, which say that people have all these green NGOs and all have started advocating vegetarianism purely from the emissions point of view. The next is industry, and we'll see what is meant by industry. But all the industrial activity also contributes. So these are the major contributors to greenhouse gases. So therefore, should we stop doing all these things? Should we stop doing industrial activity? Should we stop doing agriculture? Should we stop doing all these activities? No, because then what will happen is the climate will sustain, but humanity will not. What will you do without farm, without food? What will you do without movement? You need to move from place A to place B, to meet your parents, to go for a job interview, to do so many things. So all of this, can you say because they emit emissions I will not do anything? No. So life needs to go on. Therefore, a holistic definition of what is sustainability is given in the blue letters. Very beautiful and simple explanation or definition of what is sustainable. Sustainable development is the development that meets the needs of today without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. That means merely because I want to fulfill my needs of today, I shouldn't do activities in a manner that the future generations have left nothing for themselves. So that is sustainable development. But that is a definition. So what does it actually mean? It comprises three different things. One is you need to be aware of the social impact. Whatever you do also needs to look at the environment. That is the Paryavaran. And third is economy. You cannot keep on criticizing Adani, Ambani. Without them, industry will not flourish. There is not going to be economic development. There is not going to be employment. So economy is also very important. All of us, if we are asked, you have joined dipex and everything, so please work for me for 10 years without salary. Will you do that? So money is important. So when you have all these three things taken into account, the social impact, the environmental impact and the economic impact, that kind of development is called sustainable development. But that's all fine. So what exactly in real terms does sustainability mean? Does it mean minimization of utilization of resources? Resources means, suppose if I want to build lithium ion batteries, they are used in young people, dipex, sleeping already in the morning, right? Lithium, where is it used? Electric vehicles. So suppose if you because you want to increase your electric vehicles production so much that you use up entire your lithium reserves, or you create batteries where the utilization or efficiency is only 60%, rest all of it is going to waste. Your technological processes are not good enough, then you are using up the entire lithium resources, keeping nothing for the future generations. So that is called resource utilization. Does it mean reducing emissions? Does it mean reducing the litter, that is kachra? Does it mean reducing marine pollution? We are all worried about when we see kachra on our streets because that is visible. What is not visible but it affects us is the marine litter, marine pollution. Because our earth is a connected system. You cannot say we live in India and you are not connected with what happens in Indonesia or what happens in, for example, Colombia or America. We are all connected through the seas and through the air. So whatever happens there eventually comes. Our fashion comes from there. They start wearing, tone jeans, we start wearing tone jeans. So everything, including your Netflix that comes here, becomes here. So everything is a connected world. So is pollution and environment. So we do things that are safe for humans. So sustainability means in real terms all of these. Now while doing that we need to worry about emissions. I am going to take one or two more slides on sustainability. So once this background is created we can understand the next things. When we are doing these things we talked about emissions. And we talked about how human activities are responsible for a lot of emissions. And in the industrial contribution we saw is about 20-22%. These emissions are divided into three things, and some of these words when you go back to wherever you come from, your colleges or your places, just listen to these words. You may not understand everything, but even if you are able to remember some of these words, they would be enough for you to impress your teachers or your friends. You know, you have heard these words, you know, so you can toss them around and show that you are now very knowledgeable. So the emissions are classified into three scopes, three channels. Scope 1 emission is something which, if I am running a workshop or a factory, these are under my control. How I run my machines, how I within the factory I move my carts, all of these give emissions. They are in my control, I can improve the system. So that are called scope 1 emission. Scope 2 emissions are indirect emissions. That means you are purchasing electricity from someplace, right? So you are purchasing steam, or you are purchasing cooling towers or coolants. All of them come to you, but for your own activities. But they are not under your control. They are called scope 2 emissions. Scope 3 emissions is something which is indirect emissions again, but something that you have produced your goods and now you are dispatching. You have produced in Navi Mumbai but wanting to send to Jalgaon. What kind of transportation mechanism that you adopt will control scope 3 emissions. So these are very difficult to control, but I will not go beyond that. And this is again a graphical picture of what is scope 1. The central one is direct emissions, that is scope 1 emissions, which are company facilities, companies' vehicles inside your factories. Scope 2 is indirect, that comes into your factories. Scope 3 is what goes out of your factories. Now why is it important? Because when you design, as your entrepreneurs, young people, when you start any of your activities, you need to keep an eye on all these things so that you do not end up, paying, because as we go further, there are going to be environmental taxes that you will have to pay. So even from a business profitability point of view, you should know this. The other word that is now commonly floated is net zero. What is net zero? Net zero means whatever you do, whatever activity you do, even if you go to a restaurant and eat something, that has a eco footprint trail on that thing. If you are eating a non-vegetarian food, all that non-vegetarian material that comes from the poultry to that thing will have an eco footprint. The animal that is cut or slaughtered, and while it is being raised, it eats a lot of food. That growing of that food, and then a lot of these cattle, bovine animals and all belch out or fart, that releases methane, and that is why agriculture and farming is a major contributor to greenhouse gases. So within the industrial setup, what can you do to lower the emissions? And sometimes emissions are inevitable. You can't have no emissions. So what do you do if my emissions are 10 kgs? What do I do to absorb those 10 kgs by some other means? So that is why 10 kgs of carbon dioxide emissions I cannot stop. But can I do something else where I can capture the carbon dioxide from the nature, or do something where I call sequester it, and that is how I bring to net zero. That means I give out something, but I do something to absorb that thing. And looking at these, United Nations has given these 17 goals for sustainable development. Most of them, this is sustainable goal number 12 is for responsible consumption and production. We will not go into the details, but that is how the United Nations is also concerned about. Now when we talk about actually industrial activity, which is what the engineering students should be concerned with, is what do you think about these things when you do your production? That means how to produce, how much to produce. For example, let's take the example of textiles. How to produce it? You want to dye a cotton shirt, do you use reactive dyes or direct dyes? What kind of method do you use for dyeing? Dyeing means coloring. Okay. How much to produce? This is the time of fast fashion. In my time, we purchased one shirt and we would wear it for 10 years, 15 years until it wears. But these days, people like you want to have different fashions. So every 6 months there is a new fashion coming in. You want to buy new clothes. So that creates a huge amount of inventory of unsold goods. What do you do with that? While producing that thing, it has already created an eco footprint. So how do you handle these kinds of things? So this is how much to produce, what to produce, which material to produce. Do I produce with only cotton or only polyester or polyester cotton? or silk. So these are the blend. How do I create the same fashion without causing too much of environmental impact? Then having produced that, waste management. I have produced these kinds of things. I have produced 1 million dupattas or whatever it is. What is the mechanism I have that once their life gets over, how do I collect back and ensure it doesn't go into a waste? So waste management is also a complete concept that is coming in future. Now to produce in every activity you will need energy. And conventionally the central box that has been framed is whatever we are using, like coal, gas. These are all nuclear. These are all what are called non-renewable energies. That means once you take out the coal and you burn it, you cannot produce coal back again. So you have used it up from the earth's inventory. So it cannot be renewed. And that is the cause of concern. You would have heard these words: renewable energy, non-renewable energy. All these words come from these things. In contrast, what is the renewable energy is something that comes from solar. It's a continuous stream of energy. Biomass, hydropower, the tidal waves that are coming, they're coming and going. So no matter how much you use it, they're not going to stop. So they are renewable energy sources. Geothermal, wind energy. These are all new forms of energy. Now why you need to understand this? Because each of these things is going to be an input for your costs. When you run a factory or a college or any instrument or any institute, you will have to worry about the bills. Not only will you have to worry about the money that goes out in salaries and wages and pensions, you will also have to worry whenever you run any industry or anything, you will have to worry about the costs of utilities. What are the power bills? And this is where you'll need to be very aware about that. What is the source of energy that I am using for my activity? Again, I am centering all my talk around on the assumption that this is a group, or this session at least, is meant to trigger your entrepreneurial spirits and innovation spirits. Currently, the potential for solar is so big in the yellow circle that we will see, whereas coal, that is the conventional, is only 900 terawatts. So that is the big difference. We will not go into the detail, it's a matter for a special lecture, but just pointing out that renewable energy sources are huge, whereas the conventional non-renewable like coal, uranium, oil or natural gas are tiny in comparison with what solar has to offer. And therefore the world is going. The other word you would have heard is green hydrogen. How many of you have heard this word, green hydrogen? Nobody? So you should be hearing this. So listen to these things for 2 minutes. I know probably this cold, so can I request all of you to stand up please, wherever you are, please stand up. Waking up, right? So all those who are snoring and everything. So just after me, just say this: Bharat Mata Ki Jai! Please sit down. So we'll do this every 3 minutes. When I see people sleeping down, we'll do this. Okay? Right. So hydrogen. So the normal hydrogen that we use is derived from what is called grey air, which is coming from natural gas. And why is hydrogen important? Hydrogen has a huge thermal power. It's a highly inflammable gas, but it has very high calorific value. That means if you burn hydrogen 1 kilo, you can get tremendous amount of energy. So hydrogen, and this is coming as an alternative to electrical power that is coming from geothermal and everything. So there are various forms of hydrogen. You would have heard the word green hydrogen. And that green hydrogen doesn't mean that the color of hydrogen is green, it is just how you produce it. How you produce it gives the different wording for hydrogen. There is grey hydrogen, there is brown hydrogen, there is black hydrogen, blue and green hydrogen. We will not go into the details, this is for specialist lecture. But that green hydrogen is produced, and that is why is it important? Because I will tell you shortly. So let me see, if you are not sleeping, then I will tell you these inputs. So green hydrogen is produced from water. Water is electrolyzed. Water is 0 to H2. I forget that. What is water? H2O. H2O. Pakka? Yes. So that's very good. So water is H2O. So that water, when it is electrolyzed, it will form
Nitrogen and carbon dioxide. It will form hydrogen and oxygen, right? So that hydrogen when you get that is called green hydrogen. So it will need electrolyzers for that. It will need water, which is purified water, and what comes out is something which oxygen needs to be captured. This is going to be India's future industry. So those of you who are in engineering and everything, this is one idea for you to start your entrepreneurial skills such that you cater to this thing, because this is where India's future is, the world's future is, and India is taking great strides in these things. So in the right. The other thing is the lithium-ion batteries, which we just discussed about, that it is used. So how is India responding to sustainability? Brilliantly. And that is International Solar Alliance. If you remember, Prime Minister Modi along with French President, he formed what is called International Solar Alliance. So India took the lead and is the captain of the International Solar Alliance. That is an alliance amongst different countries to tap the solar energy and create one earth, one grid. If you would have heard the Prime Minister's slogans and speeches, you need to be very careful with this particular Prime Minister. Whatever he says, there is a lot of thought behind it, what has already happened or what is going to happen in future. The other thing is, there is an encouraging of different fuels. You would have heard a lot of WhatsApp on Gadkari ji is our transportation minister, talking about so many alternative fuels. Bioethanol, biofuels, he keeps talking about that. So India has taken great leaps in forming International Solar Alliance, renewable energy and non-fossil fuel. What is fossil fuel? Fossil means something which has been deeply buried in the earth and fossilized. That means a lot of these let's imagine a lot of these animals or dead living beings are buried in that thing, and what happens that after a few years they get decomposed, but the bones remain, and if they are dug deep into that thing after 1,000 years, what they get is fossilized. That means they become strong and they become source of carbon and hydrogen and nitrogen. They become these energy sources, and our petrol is a cause of these fossilized fuel. So, but these are non-renewable. So once you consume them, you cannot replenish them. Whereas these are renewable energies. And India has the world's largest solar park in a place called Bhadla in Rajasthan. Next, that is the world's largest solar park. Followed by, there is another park in China, in Wanghai hydropower, this thing. But the third largest in the world and second largest in India is at Pavagadh Solar Park. So these are massive structures that are happening in India, and as young entrepreneurs or wanting aspirants to be entrepreneurs, you should be aware of what is happening these days and see if there is any opportunity for you to dial into as suppliers or vendors to these great concepts. And here is this hydrogen mission which I talked about. India has launched a hydrogen mission dedicated to produce different kinds of cleaner hydrogen missions. And this is a Panchamrit call that the Honorable Prime Minister gave at COP60. COP is on Conference of Parties. So this is here an annual conference, and he gave 5 targets for the country. One is that raise the non-fossil fuel based energy capacity to 500 gigawatts by 2030. But do you know, India has already achieved 450 gigawatts already. So we are ahead of our target. And there are some other things which will not go into the details. How is industry responding? The industry is also responding, and you need to be aware of these things, because that's where opportunities for suppliers and small startups and things come up. Because this is Reliance's, I'm telling you, 4 gigafactories that are being set up. Massive factories in Jamnagar and around that. But all of this Reliance doesn't make. Reliance has thousands and thousands of vendors that they supply small components and everything. That's where your entrepreneurial spirit, you can make small beginnings before you can aspire to become another Ambani. Okay? So, but you need to be aware. So, a lot of solar photovoltaic cells are happening. Great batteries are getting, manufactured.
Electrolyzers are getting, we just spoke about how green hydrogen is made, that is fine. But you need electrolyzers for that thing, and electrolyzers need to be distributed all over the country. So these are business opportunities, manufacturing opportunities for young engineers like you. And then fuel cells, how do you carry hydrogen from one place to another place? So you will need to have a lot of cells of a different kind to do this kind of thing. So all of this is happening on the climate front. But in DIPEX, where you are aimed to create new projects for creating new businesses through innovation, you should also be aware about what is happening in the finance matters. Because you cannot run businesses just because you take inspiration from Marathe Saab or somebody and just say, I'm doing it for the nation. That's fine. But even to run the nation and do it well, you need to earn money out of it. You cannot do businesses for charity. You can donate your profits to charity, but you cannot run the business for charity. Business means profit. Business means money. And money means you need to be aware of what is happening around you. For example, if I am carrying, let's say, a lakh of rupees from here to there, how do I carry? I need to be aware. If I cross from here to Pune, I will be taxed 18%. On the other hand, if I pay by check, I will be taxed 3%. I'm giving these fictitious examples. These are not correct examples, just to give you a flavor of these things. You can then adopt the means of, transferring money. So everything revolves around every paisa saved is every paisa earned. And that's how profitability increases. You need to come to visit a small company like Reliance, very small company, and you should see how money is saved. Every single thing that is given, right from services of housekeeping to gardening to supply of huge turbines, the kind of negotiations that happen for price. And that is why you see the big kind of pre-wedding celebrations that you have seen. That's how they celebrate. But the money comes from hard negotiations right from stage one. Right from recruiting engineers, they will squeeze you. But that's how, that is the nature of business. So we need to worry about Indian economy. And this was the situation, India's situation about 2 years ago, where we were 6th largest economy. But just see what has happened under this government. We have moved to 5th position. And our current economy is 3.77 trillion US dollars. How much is a trillion? Anybody? 10 raised to 11, 6, 18 trillion billion. How much is a billion? I am now going to raise a finger and whoever is sleeping, I am going to ask him or her that answer. So you please be careful. How much is a billion? Million? 10 raised to 6. So million megabytes, MB, gigabytes, 10 raised to 9. So 1,000 million is a billion. 1,000 billion is a trillion. So 10 raised to 14, 12, 12. So 10 raised to 12 is a trillion US dollars. 3.77, that is 311 lakh crore rupees is the size of our economy. We are the 5th largest, however. That is in terms of size. But when we calculate per capita, that means per person, we are not so good. Because per capita GDP is total GDP divided by the population. And there small countries score. Because Luxembourg has a huge GDP, but its population is only 6.5 lakh rupees, 6.5 lakh people. The population of Nehru. That's the country. So now you have the GDP divided by the population, so the per capita, and there India ranks very poor because our GDP is hardly $2,700 per person per year. Because the denominator is very high. And that is why we need to have population control. Otherwise, no matter how much we make progress, we will be kind of hit by this denominator here. But the overall GDP outlook growth, and some of these things you should know, some of the figures, even if you don't remember everything, don't worry about it. But you should know big pictures. Like, for example, how many fingers do you have? About 7, 8, 6. You say 5. You know.
normally. Similarly, you should know about your nation's statistics. How many districts does India have? 55. 766 districts. You should know this because it is our motherland, you should know all its statistics. Just like you know your blood group, you know your height, weight. You don't estimate about it, you should know. Because only then when you know this will also help in setting up businesses, because you will then be able to strategize your logistics and other business related functions. Anyway, so this is the latest report of January by International Monetary Fund. Not by Modi Sarkar, not by any government, International Monetary Fund. And what does it say? That these are the advanced economies, that please look at the central column, 2024 projections. All the rates are less than 2%, even in the advanced economies. In the emerging and developing economies, look at India, the middle post, 6.5%, the highest in the world. That is how our economy is progressing, the growth. We should know this, and we feel proud if you feel like it, but it's good for our country generally, right? And our economy is growing, has been growing, and look at the graph, it is going up. This is GDP growth, which means our economic situation is getting better. So it only is up to your imagination and creativity to tap into it and make use of it. So the three pillars of economy, which you should know, and I was told that there are a lot of agricultural students here. How many agricultural students here? Only one. And all the agricultural farmers are at the protest site. So only one agree, but anyway, for her I prepared this slide for you. So the main pillars of the economy. So we talked about this $3.77 trillion economy. Where does the money come from? Who generates the money? Three major sectors, or it is clubbed into three activities. One is agricultural sector. Agriculture doesn't mean farming. It also includes forestry, it also includes fishing, poultry farming, horticulture, all of this comes under agriculture sector. And there is room for entrepreneurship and innovation there only. We can't just keep chasing rice and wheat, rice and wheat and rice and wheat. By doing that, we are ignoring a lot of opportunities that are available in non-pulses and non-cereal sector. The second is industry sector. The word is industry sector. The agricultural sector contributes to 18.5% of the economy. Industry sector contributes to 28%. Now industry has so many components. Manufacturing is one of the components. So industry and manufacturing in terms of economics is not the same. Industry has manufacturing as one of its subset, and it is 14%, and it is said that until you raise this 14% and bring it to 25%, the boost in terms of employment will not happen, because employment happens primarily in the manufacturing sector, and the contribution per capita is better in maximum in manufacturing. So I will not go into the detail, but this is how the distribution of the different sectors in the economy is there. And obviously, we see that the services sector is the maximum sector. But the growth in each of these sectors, you will find only agriculture is a steady growth, whereas industry sector and services sector has not been doing too well. Particularly it got hit because of the pandemic. So now it's the time for boom. Whatever comes down has a ping pong effect. It will come up, and this is what this group should be aware of. There is huge potential in catching up on these sectors. And this is a snapshot of how India's growing economy is that we are aiming to become, we are currently the 5th largest economy, we are aiming to become the 3rd largest economy. And by 2030, but we are already advanced the target to 2027. So in the world of innovation, we need to, while we are singing glories of India, we should also know what is the picture. The biggest threat to us and competition to us is China. We may hate that country, we may do whatever it is, but it is there for us to stay. We cannot change your neighbors. You can change your husbands and wives, but your neighbors you cannot change. They are there. So we have to deal with them. We have to deal with them, we have to overpower them in proper ways, diplomatic ways, and through our manufacturing power and our youth power. And this is an innovation index
and you will see that India is far at only at the rank of 52nd. Because Indians generally like to sleep in auditoriums, so we have to wake up, and therefore please get up again. We'll do this every time I see 3 people sleeping, I will ask you to get up. So if you see somebody your next door sleeping, just punch him or her, because otherwise you will have to get up. Okay? And this happens, our innovation index is low, even though India has the second largest graduates of STEM. STEM is science, technology, engineering and mathematics. We have about second largest graduates coming out of these STEM disciplines. Yet in terms of innovation, we are very poor, and that's something which is a top for other thing. We have number of universities that are increasing, and these are the universities, state, different kinds of universities, and the universities are increasing from 1113 to increasing 1476. That's how universities are growing. But the number of universities of India that are the top 500, India scores very, very low. We have only 9 world-class universities. We have number of universities is very high, but world-class universities is very low, and that's something a talk for another day. And that is where China's technology leadership comes from in AI. AI applications, anybody can say what is AI? Air India? Artificial intelligence. Okay. So, blockchain technology, augmented reality, these are the kind of latest things in which China is far ahead of us. And in terms of purely artificial intelligence, whether it is the talent of in research in AI, development, adoption, data, hardware, these are the relative 1, 2, 3 rankings of the 3 different countries, China, European Union, United States. And top 10 are in this order of this thing. And where does India come? We are there, but we are not on the top. Our economy is number 5, but in terms of AI, just one field, innovation, we are low. So while we need to feel good about ourselves, we also need to understand where we fall behind. And the biggest way where we fall behind is, hardly anybody is aware of what is intellectual property. When you do something innovative, we don't capture it and protect it. And that is where we lose the entire advantage, competitive advantage. Intellectual property rights, IPR, is something which we should be aware of. And these are primarily, we know this by patents. So whenever, and this is one example, when you must have heard different words, copyright, patents, trademark. What do each of these things mean? This is one example that we will try and understand what it means. There was a new drink that a company called Coca-Cola founder, he invented this concoction and he started selling it. Innovation. It was not limbu sarbat, but he invented something and then he started selling it. He started making money. What was the first thing that he protected? Industrial design of the bottle. The moment you look at a bottle from a distance, you will know it's Coca-Cola. Glass bottles, that was one time. Today there are no glass bottles. But from a distance you can recognize that that is Coca-Cola bottle. So that shape is unique, protected. No one else can copy it. That's how you capture the market share. So you can't imagine, your competitors can't imagine. You had Pepsi coming up, but Pepsi couldn't get the same thing because Coca-Cola had already done a smart thing. They had captured the shape of the bottle, the packaging. So that you can capture it by patent. The other is called trade, that comes under industrial design. The second is trade secret. So you can capture your trade secret, the concoction, what is the recipe. Even today, the entire Coca-Cola recipe is known only to 2 people. That's kept secret in the world. You may have produced Coca-Cola in India, but that is not produced. The main formula comes from the US. Here what is done is only mixing with water and what is called bottling operations. That recipe is a trade secret. That can get protected under trade secret. The third is copyright and trademark. The way Coca-Cola is written, from a distance if you see those letters, you know it is Coca-Cola. Even if you can't read it, you can know it is Coca-Cola. That comes under trademark. And last is patent, the functional improvement. So now currently there are plastic bottles, PET bottles, and they have a lot of innovations done there so that the carbon dioxide inside the Coca-Cola doesn't go out. So the fizz remains in the Coca-Cola for a very, very long time. That is patented. So we have four things: industrial design, trade secret, copyright and patent. So these are all intellectual property rights. So you have thought about it, capture it. So no one else can copy it. No one else can get into it. And that is how you create business things. So patent, what is a patent? Of all these four things, let's focus on patent. Patent is a contract between the inventor and a specific government. If I create a, yeah. Okay. So it's a contract. That means if I invent something, let's say a machine to make sugarcane juice, and I file a patent in the government of India, that doesn't automatically give me protection in, let's say, Thailand or in Cambodia. I have to go and file a patent in each of these countries so that those country people cannot imitate that thing. So it's a contract between a specific government, and that gives the inventor a reward for thinking about these things. What things can be patented? You can patent the thing if it fulfills three requirements. If it is new over prior art, if you know something, for example, you know that juice can be extracted from sugarcane, and you also say, okay, I am now extracting juice from bhendi. It is not a new thing. It is extraction process is known, so you cannot patent that. It should be non-obvious. Come on, and if you do something and instead of putting button this way, you put the button instead of 1 centimeter, you do 2 centimeters. That is obvious. It is not. It will not get a patent. The third thing is it should be useful. You cannot create harmful objects. So therefore, atom bomb invention has not got a patent. So you will not get a patent if it is harmful, it is unethical, it is immoral, or it is useless. You will not get a patent. You will not get a patent, for example, for creating a sword, because it is harmful. So these three things, if when you in your progress towards entrepreneurial journey, if you hit upon an idea or do something that fulfills all these three conditions, first thing I would recommend is file a patent. File a patent. Whether it gets licensed or not, that's a different matter, but you must file a patent. A lot of our good ideas that come, we keep discussing, why don't you do this thing, why this thing? A lot of these ideas are just gone. So work on those ideas and patent these ideas. Because if you see here, even in terms of patenting, China has the largest amount of patents. But India is not far behind. This government has given a big push for patenting, and year-on-year growth, we have also increased 25% of our patents. But look at that, we are hardly 77,000 patents a year. Only 77,000 for a population of 1.42 billion people, only 77,000. And look at China. So everywhere, and PCT is another system that instead of me going to Singapore and filing patents in all these 5 different countries, there is something called PCT, that's a world patent. If I file that, I will get all these things. And the major areas in which patents is happening is computer technology, electrical machinery, digital communication, medical technology, transportation. So that is nationwide statistics. Company-wise, there are these different companies in 2018 who are the top patent filers. None of them is an Indian company. And in 2021, the same Huawei Technologies, Samsung, Qualcomm, these are all the same companies. They are so active in patenting, and that is why a lot of their competition cannot enter into what they, because there are IBM as a company. You know what is IBM? India, Bangladesh, Malaysia, right? What is IBM? Cycle company? IBM? No, not heard of IBM, you have not seen computers? IBM is known for computers. And it earned more money not out of selling of computers, but by selling of its rights of patents. So that is how the power of patents is. Anyway, as entrepreneurs, we should be aware of the government setup that is available to us to, if you are in whatever field you are in, agriculture, electrical supplies or whatever it is. I was told that this is a gathering of all engineering students and science-based students and agricultural students, so which is why I have drawn up a list of various government organizations where you can get support by working with them. And that could eventually lead to filing of patents. And this is an Indian patent filing system. The largest patent filer is CSIR, Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. It's a government setup having 40 different laboratories. But the one that is you see here is in the field of chemical industry. Reliance is the largest in the chemical industry. There are other government support systems that are available like Sarthi portal, you must have heard. Those of you who have not, but are desirous of entering into entrepreneurship should be aware of this Sarthi portal. And it is that particularly for agricultural people, this should be available. So you should be, Miss Agriculture, you should be aware of this, okay? There is another by the similar name Sarthi that is introduced by the government of Maharashtra for employability enhancement. So for skill development, for counseling, for giving grants and scholarship, there is this Sarthi portal by Maharashtra government. And there is this famous Atal Innovation Mission, which has done it's a government of India's setup for objective to foster innovation, to encourage innovation and different sectors and provide platforms for different stakeholders. And it has various sub portals in that thing like Atal Tinkering Lab. So if you have an idea but you don't know if it will succeed or not, let me try it out for 5-6 times. I work, I want to create a red light when I pass probably say let's say a smelling place. And I have an idea that I have this circuit design and everything, but I don't know if it will work or not. So I need to have put together some system where I can put together different circuits and try it out. I don't have the money. What do I do? So there are these tinkering labs available. The government has set up. You just need to take that. Atal incubation centers. Okay, you have worked out your ideas, but you need to incubate it. Talk to different venture capitalists. Paisa chahiye na? If I have a good idea, it works also. But I need to sell it. How do I sell it? I need the marketing infrastructure. I need the logistics support. I need to calculate, do some seeding studies, whether it will, how much to price. In the entire business, the biggest thing is deciding the price. Too low, you will hit your profitability. Too high, things will not sell. What is the correct pricing? The biggest thing that in businesses is deciding the price. So, there is this Atal Tinkering Labs. I won't go in, you can look it up on the website. Atal Innovation, Community Innovation Center, Incubation Centers, and this different challenges, competitions. Probably all the competitive projects that you have done in dipex can be applied for these challenges. And in artificial intelligence, only yesterday, 7th of March, Indian government has released 10,371 crores budget. That is the big push in artificial intelligence. This is latest 7th of March, yesterday's decision. So you can, those of you who are desirous of entering into these things, AI is the thing in which India is going to promote in a big way. Then industry-wise, there are various this thing. Entrepreneurship, since this group is meant for that, you need to move out from the comfort zone to a growth zone. It is not a easy journey. It has a lot of painful things. Job is just the beginning. You do your graduation. What do? Your career is the path, how you go along. And then early path decisions. Whatever decisions you take now in this early stage of your career will decide your future for times to come. About businesses, those of you who are desirous of getting into businesses or entrepreneurship, you need to know that a business works if you fulfill some need. I need to go, I live in an area where there are no commuting service from home to the railway station, so I provide rickshaw service. So you fulfill a need, that is a business. What was done by Zomato and Swiggy? There was a need that people, they wanted food to be delivered at home. So there is a need that you need to fulfill. Sometimes the needs are implicit, sometimes you create the need. Was there a need for Facebook? No, your life went on. But Facebook, it created a need. Now everybody wants to have Facebook. It created, it's not intrinsic to that. But anyway, it needs to fulfill. Then you can fulfill the needs through either yourself or bring together sathis. Profits are never. As I said earlier, businesses, you must have profits in your mind. You must have a design that if I am entering into businesses, where will my profits come from? You need to have financial literacy. A lot of times money gets locked.
working capital is not available. You had your 2 lakh rupees, you made 10 modules and you have sold that fellow is not giving your payment, he says, 2 महीने के बाद दूंगा, मेरे पास पैसा नहीं है. Your money gets locked. You don't have money to produce the next unit, you have orders coming, but you don't have money to produce the goods. So that order is lost. It's a I waited for this now. So money you should be aware of, financial literacy. You should also be aware of regulations and law. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to go into recycling business. There are rules and regulations. The government is not, no regulator is going to spare you. Sorry, rules are rules, you have to follow them. So ease of doing business. Start a business, you still have to do it despite everything. The bureaucracy is still the way it is. You need a lot of patience to push through that way. And you should also know when to quit. At the same time, you have heard stories, people waited, dug their heels in for 10 years, they got success. Sometimes that fellow struggled for 15 years, so it's always a tricky business when you can't predict when maybe luck or prudence will prevail. But biggest of all is creativity and innovation. You should be aware of the surroundings. If I have a business and I'm exporting it, I'm not aware of what is happening between Russia and Ukraine. That war is affecting my supplies of, let's say, precious metals. And I need precious metals for my business. I should be aware of, if there is something happening in the world, I should immediately be able to conceive what is it going to be impact. The fight between Israel and Hamas, the fallout in Red Sea, how is it going to affect my logistics? All my exports which are going through the Red Sea have now to be rerouted through Cape of Good Hope. So the huge amount of logistics cost, it's going to affect business. You should be aware of what is happening around you. Invention or innovation, we will not go into the details because, and material manufacturing sector, roti, different from kapra, from different from these are essential. And even before, roti, kapra and makan.
Even before roti, sorry, this is the impact because collar mic is not there. So, even before that, you needed makans of different kinds. Then comes other instruments which are beyond roti, kapra and makan for your entertainment, for war and everything. You need materials. You need materials in today's time like electronic gadgets. Why are we discussing these things? Because each of these things in the manufacture, if you try to set up or identify a certain business in each of these businesses, you also need to worry about the managing of their waste, and that itself is becoming a different business in itself. Plastics, we survived the pandemic because of plastics. Plastics helped us in different ways in mitigating these things. It gave us an innovative ways of helping each other. Plastics helps in Do Bund Zindagi Ke, we eradicated polio because the vaccines were delivered in plastics. In droughts and everything, plastics came. Yet, the biggest thing that is talked about is plastics are bad. And that happens because of its lightweight, durability, cost effectiveness. But that again, the point I'm saying is a lot of this waste processing is now becoming a big activity, and that's where something called circular economy. That means you don't produce new material, but you collect the waste and recycle it into that thing. That is called circular economy, and that is becoming a big business. And for example, these PET bottles, I don't see them here anymore, but all these PET water bottles and bottles are collected and they're converted into textiles and pillows and a lot of these things. The jacket that I'm wearing is made from PET bottles, used PET bottles. See, even a person like me looks smart, right? So that's how the power of recycling in the correct way. And this is the same thing that Modi ji kind of wore it in the parliament to establish that, if you collect plastics and everything, they can be recycled into all these good things. And that is true for all plastics, but we'll not go into that. And roads are being currently made with 8% of plastic in that. Why should it be important to you? All of these things are areas for entering into new businesses. And it's not only about plastics, but it's about even textiles. There are mountains of textile waste that are happening, and we don't know what to do with it. And therefore, there are a lot of new ventures coming that makes use of textile waste. For example, all the jeans and everything can be converted into useful articles, and by a company, my student Vish. And then there is garment recycling that is happening in a big way the world over. And this is an example, or Solapur Chadar. Just see that thing. Nick Jonas wears it and then it becomes a fashion article. Why can't this idea come to India? Why does it have to come from a Gora Sahib? That is because we just don't think, we just sleep. Okay? And this gone part in converting into a jacket, right? It's become a fashion statement. Why can't we think about these things? And garment recycling is going to come in a big way. Okay? Electronic recycling. We have everywhere we have these electronic items. But electronic items contain toxic materials also, so that is a specialized activity. But collecting these things and recycling electronic waste is getting into a big business. In Mumbai alone, there are at least 25 new startups that have come for recycling electronic waste. And we'll not go into these details. Solar panel waste. We talked about so much about solar panel, but the solar panels have a life of 15-20 years. What happens to the panels after 15-20 years? Thousands and millions of these solar panels are instituted everywhere. What happens to that after the usage? A lot of recycling techniques and collection testing is a big business that's going to come up. And the same thing happens for wind turbine blades. This is going to be a big business. Those of you who have a mind of chemistry should be aware of these wind turbine blades. Massive blades. How many of you have seen these wind turbine blades? As you go along, they are massive, 300 meters and 3 blades on one turbine. And there are millions of, hundreds and thousands of that thing in a wind farm. They also have a life of 15-20 years. What happens to the blade turbines after that thing? Recycling them becomes again an important thing. As we come to an end, we need to aware that India's population, we overtook China. In a not so very healthy competition, we overtook them in population. That was not a competition we needed to kind of overtake them. But that's what the reality is. And the population of the globe is reaching almost 8 billion. So it's a 24% increase over about 5-6 years ago. All of this is going to put a stress on land, water, and we need to be aware and create opportunities in each of these things. Be aware of the waste management rules, and these are the new ideas that we should cash on. Mandir tourism, with such a big impact, and India has been re-energized recently from 22nd January around that. A lot of tourism is happening, a lot of business opportunities can come out of that thing. Indian foods and delicacies of different regions and everything. We know, McDonald's and everything. Why can't we have Mac Thalipit? So we have so many varieties of our own food, we just don't kind of realize the value that we have. The mandir renovations, those of you who are from ITI and everything, why don't you, have you seen those ugly dangling wires in mandirs and around that thing street? Why can't we local people with ITI skills and everything go and offer their services to mandir and tidy up the places and make sure that the wiring and everything is not only looking nice, but it's safe as well. So wedding and events, we recently saw a pre-wedding celebration, 1,000 crores, right? The number of vendors that are involved in arranging these kinds of things. These are all businesses. Water management. Bangalore, recently we have seen that Bangalore is now without water. Recycling industries, AI-based manufacturing, robotics. These are companies, so right from mandir renovations to AI robotics. We have all business opportunities coming and room for entrepreneurship. While ever you're doing it, we should remember the Indian saying, Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha. Sarva Bhuta, that means everybody, all beings, their welfare should be at the center of all our efforts. Thank you.
That was really a nice session, sir. If anyone has any doubts or questions, feel free to ask. Anyone? Okay, fine. I would like to invite we'll just wait for a few minutes if anyone has any. So we have a doubt.
Hello. Sir, can you elaborate what is circular economy?
The normal way we produce goods was called linear economy. That means you extract material, you manufacturing the goods, after the usage you throw it away. That is linear economy. Extract, make, use and throw. Circular economy leaves no room for new extraction. You use the existing material that is in circulation and create the needs or meet your future needs. A good example is newspapers. Generally, Indians will not throw away the newspapers, will store them for a month or whatever it is and sell and earn some money out of it. What happens to the newspapers? It's newsprint. It's a special grade newspaper. Paper comes in 20 different grades, 50 different grades. The one that is used for newspaper is called newsprint grade. These newspapers are repulped and converted into again newspaper print. Of course, that meets only a partial need, but nonetheless, to that extent, it prevents the cutting of fresh trees. So that is how, instead of wasting that thing, you put it back into the use. That is called circular economy. That is true for plastics also. I gave an example of PET water bottles. Instead of throwing it away and allowing it to go into landfills or litter or incinerate it, you convert them into good items such as this, useful articles. You bring them back. You don't throw them away. Or convert those PET bottles back into new bottles. So to that extent, you don't need to extract petrochemicals, fresh petrochemicals which are fossil based. So this is circular economy.
Anyone else? Anything else? One minute.
So you spoke about environment tax. I'm just curious if since I think around 1988 we started officially recognized the term climate change due to human activity. So since then around 70% of the companies, so 70% of the climate change has been produced by around 100 or so companies. So if the environment tax is to be applied to on general public, what is the use? If there is no tax for the corporations or for people in power?
No, environment tax will not be levied on citizens. Environment tax will be levied on organized businesses, including agriculture. So just because I am protesting, I am not spared from that. So farmers will also have to bear the environmental tax. Any industrial, any activity that generates emissions, excepting individual activities, like I am at home, I will not be taxed. But if I enter into a small workshop or I run a small juice shop, that will have a...
Okay.
That's still way ahead. A lot of discussions are happening on how to tax it.
Right.
But that will have to be done. Otherwise, all these environmental emission cutting measures, usko paisa kahan se layega? So people tend to forget that thing. You need all the goods and everything, nice Atal, Setu and everything. Toll lagata hai. So where will that 9,000 crores come from? So government will have to generate, and all governments in all countries will have to tax. So tax is the source for providing you services and facilities.
Anyone else? Hello?
Good morning, sir. My name is Sridhar Bello. I'm a fourth year mechanical engineering student. I had a question on patents. What is the cost of patents, and does the cost change based on what type of product do you have?
No, good question. Patents in India are not very expensive. It just takes time. So typically about, depending on how lengthy or what are the, everything depends on the claims. If you file a patent, you need to, along with the patent, you need to file claims that my invention, I claim that it can do, if I am sugarcane this thing, it will produce flavor, it will produce fragrance. If I am making these claims, and if I make 13 claims versus I make 2 claims, the cost of 13 claims will be slightly higher, but still in India it's not very high. It's less than 50,000, 60,000 rupees. It's just that it takes time in India, but that also due to digitization and everything is getting speeded up. So cost of patent is not very prohibitive.
So I had another question. Does the cost of the patent depend on if a single person files a patent
No.
and an organization files a patent? Is the cost the same?
No, the ownership or that's called assignees, the number of people who are assigned that thing. A single inventor and 5 inventors, that cost doesn't. Cost depends on the claims.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. I would like to call upon stage Milind Marathi sir to conclude the session.
So, I would like to thank Vijay Habbu sir. He's the Vice President Reliance Industries, and with a wide range of expertise, and I'm sure that through his speech, slides, presentation, narrative, logistics, the logic which he has put through, you all will have appreciated the length and breadth and depth of the knowledge of Vijay Habbu sir. Now, when I have been asked to conclude, actually the topic was very, very relevant for our students because it's an engineering and sustainable future. Engineering we know because we are in one stream or the other, mechanical, electrical, communication, power systems, switch gears, control, chemical and whatnot. So we are aware of one stream in which we are studying. But unfortunately the real life problems which has to be solved by the engineering knowledge, they all are interdisciplinary. And when a real life problem is interdisciplinary, you need not say that I am trained in one particular stream of engineering. You have to go for the interdisciplinary nature, which is a lacking in our education system. Not only that, not only interdisciplinary engineering, but even now it has come to the sustainability is a very important aspect of whatever endeavors you will do today and tomorrow. So basically it is an integrated view of any activity which we will do in future. And for that, it was a very well explained, complete scope of this particular topic was covered by sir. So engineering we know. Sustainability, we are aware of the word, but the level of explanation sir has given, you must have come to a great idea of the sustainability in general. Now the very important aspect of sustainability is the issues which has been arised because of the uncontrolled growth, or I will not say uncontrolled, the growth which we are going for without taking its side effects, because that side effects has to be also calculated in terms of money, in terms of effects, and they has to be integrated in the system. That we were not doing, and that's why when we produce a carbon, we just forget, jane do carbon ho gaya so ho gaya. But when it has come to the greenhouse effect, greenhouse gases, climate change, warming of the world, then we realize that whatever we do has a side effect which we cannot ignore, and that's why the very important definition of sustainability told by sir was, whatever benefits, facilities this generation is taking, it should be unaltered for another generations which will come year after year. So if we design a system in such a way, then I can say that my system is in a way sustainable. So I cannot consume in my generation and forget about what will happen to the future generation and I will keep the heaps of the problems for them to solve. No, it is not the logic. Logic is we will have to think that the same facilities and benefits has to be transferred to the generations to come. So my system should be like that. So that is the definition of sustainability which was presented in his speech. Now another very important aspect he has touched upon, that these sources of greenhouse gases generation, normally our general understanding is it's an industry. And agriculture is a very beautiful. Kisani karo, bahut badhiya tarike se raho, go towards nature, stay with the nature. But he has said very specifically and categorically that 24% of the emission comes from the agricultural sector. So it is not only industry, no doubt industry is slightly high, 25% he has said, but agriculture is equally contributing to this. So we cannot give blanket 100% marks to the agricultural sector. We will have to think about that. So that is also a very new thought which he has given to us, because normal idea is agriculture is best, industry is creating the problem. So that is also one very important aspect which he has said. And then there was a Venn diagram. I will not explain because sir has very well explained, but he has very categorically said social, economic and environment, three circles are there and the core there will be a sustainability. So that is the very important aspect. We are listening to net zero, carbon neutrality. He has also suggested what initiatives governments are taking. Now I will tell one aspect which has been told by our own Prime Minister, that by 2060 India will be carbon neutral. That 2060, we are in 2024. So he has very categorically said, on the basis of calculations and projection, that in 2060 we will be carbon neutral, the country as a whole. Now this generation has to do tremendous thing in achieving this particular target, because we will lead the world in making carbon neutral areas. So number of activities can be thought of to do this. So that also was the one of the area of the speech of Habu sir, that what are the government initiatives. Then there are some areas to which we should think. He has said that we have moved from lower position to fifth position for economy. We all should be very happy about that. But the flip side is also very important, that though as an economy, as a country, we have moved to the fifth position, if we go by GDP, per capita income GDP, then we are not fifth. That means our economic size is good, we have increased, we are competing with the world, but the benefits are not distributed equally to each and every person of this country. And there is a possibility that there will be a divide among the population. Somebody will have good earning sources, some will have very, very less. And this disparity ultimately is a challenge. So as a whole we are growing very nicely, but this wealth should be equally distributed. That is also a challenge, and that one has to think about. So these are some of the areas in which today's speech was designed, and particularly I was touched by the last part of the speech where he has given a clear-cut route or roadmap for all of us to become an entrepreneur. So first thing he said that identify the need which we can fill up. Then and then only that will be the root of the business. He has said about the Zomato. I can give you another example of Uber and Ola. When we used to book the taxi or we used to book the auto rickshaw, the first thing is वो आएगा कि नहीं आएगा, वो बोलेगा नहीं आऊँगा मैं. दूसरा, if the terrain is unknown, the city is unknown, वो मुझे घुमाएगा या नहीं घुमाएगा, कितना कॉस्ट होगा. अच्छा, दूसरा, if मेरे साथ मेरे एज्ड पेरेंट्स है तो टैक्सी स्टैंड तक जाना पड़ेगा या मुझे वहां तक जाकर टैक्सी बुक करके घर पर आना पड़ेगा. These were the worries. तो ओला उबेर वाले जो भी थे उन्होंने शायद इन तीनों एस्पेक्ट पर काम किया. No doubt, pricing is bit high, we also know. But normally there is no refusal. Cost is advance. We know cost in advance. So I can say कि ये चलेगा कि नहीं चलेगा, ज़्यादा है तो छोड़ देंगे. Third, it will come to my home. So all these things they have taken care, and because of that a new business has been set up. So he has given a clear-cut roadmap of starting a new business, and I'm sure that we need more manufacturing, then and then our economy will have a bouncing effect, and we will lead to make the Indian economy and India as a nation strong, vibrant, futuristic, developed nation. Lastly, I would like to say that there is always a fight between development and environmental byproducts, you can say, or environmental issues. We know that whenever a new developmental project is announced by municipal corporation, by state corporation, state authorities, national authorities, there will be environmentalists. They will stand and shout. No doubt, I am not questioning their sincerity. They are really very much keen about the protection of the environment. But in general, I perceive this as a fight between development and environment. So now this is also a challenge to these young engineers and entrepreneurs, that how to optimize the things. See, always the things, best things are not possible. It is always the optimization that works. So we will have optimized development with minimum environmental effect. That's why there is an impact analysis has to be done for every developmental project. So this is also a very important challenge in today's context. Lastly, I will say that the population is increasing, so there will be some issues because of that. Sir has listed out, land will be the issue, so it will get manifested into food security, because many times you will read the advertisement in newspaper. In Shahpur, lands are available with NA certification. क्या है NA certification? Non-agriculture. यानी पहले तो agriculture था. Is there any limit that for a particular population, how much percent of non-agricultural and agricultural land should be there in the country? Can we have policy intervention for that? So all these issues will definitely come, and we will have to tackle to them. So really it was a eye-opening session, which not only gives the information about the issues, but shown you the clear-cut pathway which every individual engineer will take up and contribute in development of this country. Ultimately, thank you for patient listening, and happy Mahashivratri and International Women's Day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Milind sir. It has been such an honor to be a part of this wonderful event. On the behalf of the ABVP organization, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed guests, Dr. Vijayji Habusa and Professor Madan Marathi sir. Sincere thanks to the heads of the various departments who handled the event throughout. A wide round of applause and thanks to all of the participants who made the event a memorable one. Finally,